Welcome to the Global Gratitude Summit. I'm Sharon Saraga Walters.
And I'm Luann Saraga Walters. Our guest today is a life-transforming speaker, a gifted community leader, a global spiritual leader. He has a degree in psychology and religion and decades as senior minister and spiritual director of Mile High Church in Lakewood, Colorado. That's Denver for those of you outside of Colorado. He's also recently retired, and his inspirational and heart-opening messages empower people to live their limitless potential. Rev Dr Roger Teel assisted in facilitating the synthesis dialogues with acclaimed global leaders, including His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And Dr. Roger is also the visionary co-founder of the Association for Global New Thought. We're so honored to have him joining us for the Global Gratitude Summit. Welcome, Dr. Roger.
Yes.
How are you today?
Welcome. I'm terrific. Thank you both for having me with you. It's a great honor.
Oh, it's very much our honor.
Yes.
And when we heard you say yes, we were like, whoa, this is fantastic. You have a reputation that obviously precedes you, but you have such heartfelt longevity, both in your ministerial service and the work you've really been doing globally. So we are very appreciative that you're on. And I wanted to start
longevity. All you got to do is hang around a long time.
And very impactful as well, I should add on that. You have such an interesting background with both the psychology and religion. I want to maybe label that as the head and the heart. So how have you seen that these two items, which is really poignant and pertinent for the Global Gratitude Summit, work together, the head and the heart combo?
Well, they're indispensable, and I really feel like we've gotten them backwards in our society. Of course, in our culture, Western technological culture, we center our lives in the head, and we bring a sense of the intellect and our figure-it-out mind and our memory and all of those things to bear upon the direction of our lives, the attitudes of our lives. And in that regard, we have it backwards. And in the more mystical cultures and paths, there's the realization, which is now dawning to us in the West, by the way, that the heart is really meant to be the leader of our lives, with using the head as a tool, a very powerful tool. But when you get head before heart, there are a lot of dangers that can arise. First of all, your life gets sterile and shallow because you're not in with the heartbeat of life, the energetic of life. And then, of course, we've seen the atrocities and sad things that go on when the head is not informed by the heart. So for me, one of the greatest transformations of my life in my early 30s was when I experienced a heart opening. As I write in my book, This Life is Joy, it came after a deep, searing wounding and betrayal in my life. But luckily, I didn't get stuck and wallow in that quicksand. I eventually realized that it was really about me, not them. And it was about my heart that had become protected and somewhat closed. And I distanced everybody and everything in my life and controlled as best I could. So, but when I realized that and got busy doing heart work, then when I experienced that, I'll never forget the moment, a sunrise on a hill, and my heart flew open. All of a sudden, I knew a different texture and quality of being itself. And that totally transformed the rest of my ministry, allowed me to bring in my beautiful wife, and now I have a couple of sons and 5 grandchildren. And without it, I don't know where I would be. So you see, for me now, I really know what heart math and other approaches are saying is that the wisest, most powerful organ in your body is your heart. And if you lead with that and then use the mind as a tool, you've got it going correctly.
You bring up a great point, because I think that if you're a human being, you've probably had an experience in which you've been into that, I'm going along, everything is fine, I'm achieving, I'm doing, I'm achieving, my life is successful, and then all of a sudden the bottom drops out, whether it's a diagnosis or a tragedy or a divorce or something happens that takes our breath away. And suddenly, just like you described, the head can't supply the solution.
Exactly.
That's very, very powerful.
It can't supply the solutions, but the problem is that if we aren't initiated into the heart or don't have a sense of the heart in our lives, then we scramble. We scramble around to anesthetize the pain in one way or another, drugs, alcohol, sex addiction, materialism, and those things. We scurry around trying to find something to ease that pain. But most of the time, our woundings are sacred pathways into our greater soul essence. And if we can approach them that way, we become more, even if it hurt like hell, you know?
Mm. I like the way you said that, the sacred pathways. And that's actually something that's very personal to us, or very important to us, is that empowerment process. And that's what's kind of what you're looking at with the discovery of where we're going. And that actually leads us to Sharon's first question for you as well.
Yes. So how does gratitude empower us?
Well, I believe that gratitude, if it's genuine, I think that there are levels of gratitude. I think there's the kind of gratitude which is the obligatory virtue. I ought to be grateful because look at all that I've got around me and look at how different my life is, especially in our country, even in the hardest of times from those who suffer in other countries. And so sometimes we feel like there's a necessity to be grateful in that regard. And I think that's okay. But I believe there's a more powerful aspect of gratitude. It's an extension of the heart. Because indeed, when our heart is open and we're living in the flow of God, which, because it says God is love, and not God is loving, but God is the very essence of love. So what I've come to know is that when my heart is open, I'm in the flow of my source. I'm in the flow of the beloved. And I know myself as beloved, and I know myself as blessed already, not for, but as who I am. And so there's a kind of gratitude that looks out through eyes of love and just acknowledges the miracle of life itself, the ongoing growth path of life. And it's not like what we're for. It's like it's a causative energy, because the other thing about gratitude is that it is one of the most prospering attitudes we could ever adopt. Now, of course, a lot of books have been written about, doing gratitude lists, and, Sarah Ben Brannock and people like that, wonderful authors. But really, it's an extension of this whole principle, is that when we're anchored in source, which is love, and we're seeing the world through eyes of love, then it's going to come back to us, because it's the way we're standing in life as grateful now, not grateful if we get what we want, not grateful if people act the way we want them to, because that's another thing we do with gratitude, is we make it very conditional. If I get what I want, if people treat me right, if my day goes how I planned it, and there's nothing unexpected, I can be grateful. Or maybe that's a very limited gratitude. Maybe there's a kind of gratitude that is, I'm grateful for being, I'm grateful for my awakening, I'm grateful. I'm God's gratitude in expression. Now that is a whole new thing. And so part of my personal practice each morning is first to open my heart, and then to really attune to this love that loves me more than I can even imagine, and wants to use me as an instrument of love, and sees life as a miracle, even if I'm not feeling good that morning, or even if I've got a huge busy day ahead, or whatever the case. But to activate that gratitude as an extension of love, boy, then you're empowered from the beginning. You're not waiting for persons, places, situations, or outcomes to empower. You come into life empowered, into your day empowered.
That's awesome. It's like you're putting on your robe of gratitude. You're clothing yourselves in that.
I love that.
I love the way you just described that. I heard you say recently, sometimes we look at life and we want that to be, I want this, and I want this to come easily, or I want this process to be easy, or I want, and I feel like there's an association between a practice of gratitude and the easy, but it's not always easy, life or gratitude. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I really thought that was a powerful part in your message.
Well, the first thing is that life isn't always easy. In fact, a lot of time it's not easy. So let's not be Pollyanna about that. And the other thing is that what I've discovered is that if I can maintain gratitude in the not easy, in the difficult times, I'm going to have an easier path. And the illustration that I used was that of salmon swimming upstream to spawn, and they actually choose the fastest rushing part of the stream where the swimming is most difficult. They choose that because they know that there are no rocks or obstructions upstream in front of them that is slowing the water. So they choose the most difficult path to get the furthest toward their vision, their goal. And sometimes in life, when things get difficult, we shut so much down in ourselves. And that's natural. And yet, if we can awaken to that, we can do something. For instance, we close our hearts. We can become discouraged, and that's natural too. And yet, we just can't stay there. We can shut down our power centers in this life. So when the going gets tough, it's time to open the heart again, trust life again, trust ourselves again, and then move into that gratitude. But the other thing about it is that gratitude is a rigorous practice. It sounds fluffy, and oh, easy gratitude, be grateful. Yeah, but gratitude is a rigorous, demanding path because it's counterintuitive at times. Why the hell should I be grateful when I just got this diagnosis?
Right.
Why should I be grateful when I've been betrayed or hurt? Why should I be grateful when a company does me wrong and lets me go with no warning? Why should I be grateful when somebody does something inappropriate in my life? And so, that's when the intellect's trying to figure it out. But the heart knows that there can be ultimate good out of everything if we're open to it, if we can be the channel for it. So sometimes we have to swim in the most difficult waters of our life and challenge ourselves to keep the heart open so that we're in touch with the divine, really, not just theoretically, but really in touch with the divine. And then put on, as the lovely thing you said was put on the robe of gratitude, really challenge ourselves. And it's not so, well, can I find anything to be grateful for? It's like we start with getting grateful for the truth that transcends the trouble. Yeah. Wow. We got to be grateful that there's a higher truth that, as we are faithful to it, will work through us to turn this around into something useful, very powerful, and find a greater good in it than we can see with our human eyes and with our intellect.
And that totally requires being open. And you've said this several times, which is fantastic because we have this as one of our questions. So I'm going to turn that right over to Sharon again.
Yes. So talk about an open-hearted state. What is that? And why does that, and why is it important?
What does it look like? How do we do it?
Well, in the heart math lingo, those wonderful researchers who are applying modern technology to an ancient realization, it's about heart coherence. It's about spending some time and getting in the practice of being able to relax. Hopefully you do this in the early part of a day, and then you can return to it as needed throughout the day, but you relax, you breathe deeply, and you sense that heart center, which is not only a physiological center, but it's a chakra. It's a spiritual vortex. And as we place our attention there and breathe into that and sense that we're opening, that we're releasing our fears and our resistance in life, and we're opening and surrendering to this heart space. As we do this, they call it, we become heart coherent. I say there's a quickening. There's an activation and a quickening of our greater nature, because we're expressions of love. Since we're spiritual beings, we're one with and in the divine, and God is love, then actually our highest nature is love. And we don't always live that way. We usually live as fear-based beings. And then the world is a threat, and we've got to try to control, and we get attached to outcomes and all these wonderful things, all strategies of the head and the emotional field. And so as we attune and become heart coherent, we open that, we surrender to that, we just bask in it. And then at the end of that, I pray that I might be strengthened in love this day, and that I can go forth perceiving the spirit in all beings and in all things, and that I and it becomes an anchor point in my day, so that as you meet in the trenches, things come along. There's something to go back to, and you can breathe and become heart coherent again. And the more this happens, you can flip into a heart state so much more easily, because the more you anchor into that, the more natural it is to realize that you've let the focus be here, either in the intellect or the emotional field, and you know what it feels like to flip into that open heart state, and that's there. So that's a long-winded answer to. Actually, it's a pretty profound question.
It was a profound answer. And a beautiful answer. And you're speaking to something that I think is very, very scary for people in that open-hearted place of becoming vulnerable.
Right.
And standing in the strength of vulnerability, which sounds like an oxymoron, but I completely see what you're saying with that. And that's,
well, Luann, we need to love our vulnerability too. We need to have part of my practice is also a growing practice of self-compassion. I can't give compassion to the world if I'm not having it to myself. And so I think another part of this whole facet of gratitude is a kind of compassion for the times we're weak, for the times we get lost in our head, for the times we're angry or judgmental or whatever it is. And to even have a playful attitude of, first of all, compassion, and then say, okay, come on, you're better than that. You can do more than this. Let's not get stuck in this nonsense. And then you open the heart and you get grateful for the truth that sets us free. And then you anchor into that love energy. And then you go forth in power. You see, we think we're powerful when we're vicious or aggressive or controlling or domineering. Those are expressions of our greatest weakness, really.
When we were talking about doing this talk with you, you had mentioned a few things. And one of the things that struck me was about the need for this practice of gratitude and having an open heart with regard to our relationships today. And what you've just talked about, this hard edge that, I want to show you this point of view. And so I want to state it as hard as I can, as aggressively as I can, really is not moving us forward as a human race. And so,
we don't need to look far to see examples of that going on today.
Yeah. So how does this practice of gratitude and having an open heart help heal our relationships or turn those relationships that we want to be healthier?
Well, first of all, in an open-hearted state, we don't so much sense that the other is apart from us. And of course, they're having their own experience physically and their own choices and everything. And yet, it's more easy to sense that we're deeply one. In some of the early classes, the beginning classes I teach a mantra, a 4-word mantra: deeply we are one. Deeply we are one. Now, the more I approach that with a person, they're not the alien out there trying to control me, get their way. It's more like, hey, deeply we are one. And I'm more apt to listen more and really appreciate who they are. There's that gratitude. Appreciate their ideas. I'm less threatened. I'm controlling the vulnerability in terms of who's going to win here. When I come from a heart, it's not about winning or losing. It's about how can we both win? How can there be a higher synthesis, a higher outcome here that blesses all involved, rather than one side winning over the other? So we see the battle going on in our culture right now, the we, they, the putting of others down, the demonizing of others. And the more we open our heart, the more we can be grateful that we're all questing for the same thing. We all want well-being. We all want love. And I think most people want peace. We want good for all people. And so but there are many ways to go about it. But when I'm in my head and my egoic uh, construct, then I feel like I've got to win, and not lose. And heart opening is the antithesis of that,
Wow.
because we know we're strong already from within. We know we're a winner already, and we know the other person's valid and beautiful as well. And so conflict becomes rich rather than corrosive. And
Mhm.
and conflict isn't a bad thing.
Mhm.
Um, it's where we're coming from and what our ultimate objective is. And a conflict can lead to breakthrough uh,
Yeah.
and advances, great ones. And yet, if I come from an open heart and respect and gratitude for self and the other, and for what we're the vision that we hold, then things go to a higher level.
And that's beautiful.
Yes.
He reminded me you reminded me, Dr. Roger, just in saying those of two people that are also in the summit, Jonathan Shippey, who is a marriage counselor, and he talks about that. He doesn't use open hearted state, but it sounds very familiar. In order to get to
Mm,
what he's working towards between spouses, it's being able
mm,
to hear each other from that heart level instead of the head. And then also Dr. Vogdevi Munier, who talks about intercultural relationships and how
mm.
through the benefit of being open-hearted, I'm using your words because they weren't hers, but it's a similar process of being able to understand a little bit more about where someone else is coming from. And your experience with that is phenomenal too, because I wanted to just take a minute or two, if we can, to talk about the Association for Global New Thought, which is you co-founded this amazing body, this amazing organization several decades ago, and has done some amazing work around the world. So tell us what that is and what was the inspiration to launch that?
Well, a number of really successful New Thought leaders came together about 22 years ago, wanting the principles taught in unity churches, religious science churches, centers for spiritual living, and the many independent New Thought churches to not be what we call the best kept secret in the world, but to begin to relate to other like minded aspects of our globe, education, governance, environment, social activism, interfaith work. We wanted to get into the mix and bring our gifts and also grow our awareness. And so we set a number of goals. We created the Season for Nonviolence. We did the synthesis dialogues with world spiritual and social leaders, working with the Dalai Lama 3 times, many, many successful conferences, a film festival. The list goes on and on of the things we did just to start relating these ideas, getting the ideas more out, and then aligning ourselves with other like-minded organizations and individuals. And it's been really wonderful. And I think the key in this whole thing for me has been that heart opening is also about refusing to see those who are different as a threat or as wrong. And because we've had many interesting experiences in these dialogues, for instance, where there was an initial clash of some people culturally and in thought systems, and the more we worked as a group with them, uh, they began to experience their shared concerns. They realized that they heard over the same things. They realized that even though their cultures were different, their governments were different, they were taught to hate each other, that they still had the same dreams. So they connected at a deeper level. And so we've seen that time and again that we can, if we're willing, we can open our hearts and and go beyond all the things we've been taught, how we've been programmed. These are the good guys, these are the bad guys, and they're different.
Mhm.
They do things differently. They wear different clothes, they have a different language, their skin color is different, their economic systems are different, whatever the case. And we can come from a place of gratitude for the rich array of the human experience, and we can start listening and meet each other deeply, because I think that that's the thing, is that there's a deep meeting place in all of humanity down below cultures and religions and the past and all these things. There's a deep meeting place, and if we're going to keep this human experiment going on this planet, we got to learn to meet each other at a deep, authentic level of love.
Wow. I love that. I just had to write down meet each other deeply because that so resonated. And I think for people who have had any opportunity to travel or to even from state to state, we have so many cultures even within our own country, just exploring the vastness of the human experience. You reminded me of I'm dating myself, but of a Sandy Patty song that I heard when I was in college, and it was "Love in Any Language." And when and when we speak that language, there's a resonance that we just don't feel. And thank you for your insight into how gratitude takes us there. So, wow. Final thoughts, and Sharon has one more question for you as well. You look like you were about to say something. No? Okay.
I'm always about to say something, but I want to get you a word in edgewise.
No problem. So, Sharon, why don't you wrap us?
So, tell me, what does gratitude mean to you? What's your personal definition of gratitude?
For me, it's seeing through the eyes of love. Yeah, it's seeing and connecting, seeing through the eyes of love and connecting with the glory of all life. That's what it is for me.
That's beautiful.
And then it awakens us to being grateful for all our blessings. But as I said earlier, gratitude is much more powerful and challenging than just trying to say, hey, I'm blessed. Yeah, we're blessed. And yet the biggest thing is we're a blessing, and we're commissioned to be here as emissaries of love. And we're in this miraculous universe. It's miraculous that we're having this conversation. It's miraculous that we care. It's miraculous that life is happening in all its glory on this planet. And so with an open heart, we can center into what life's all about and see the glory of it all.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Roger. And
My pleasure.
I would attempt, although it would be very, very minuscule, to say thank you for your life's work, the amount of empowerment, the amount of love and joy and clarity, and how much you have led people on their own personal journeys just from the dedication of your heart is incredibly significant. So thank you for sharing you.
Well, that's very kind, Luann. And please know that I'm giving thanks in advance for my next calling and my next avenue for contributing, because I've shifted out of one form of serving, but I'm still here to serve, and especially with the message that I've always been about. So
that's awesome.
Another thing everybody can do is give thanks in advance.
Yes.
And I want to thank you so much. It's interesting. I've been listening to this, and I've been, I call it exercising gratitude. But what you got me, you spoke of the open heart so much.
Yeah.
And I can't thank you enough for that, because I think I don't recognize how much my heart is open, and it's giving me, and I hope others, to really take notice of that. Because if we're giving, if we know we're really in a grateful state and really giving gratitude, I've never thought about the open heart. So I'm going to give a lot more attention to acknowledging my open heart. Thank you for that.
It's so important. I lead meditation and prayer retreats 3 times a year. And right at the center of that is heart opening. Let's get used to heart opening, and everything shifts. Healing's happening. It's just wonderful.
Yeah.
The power of the heart, I think, is the new frontier for the evolution of humanity.
Yeah.
Man, I want to write that down too. I feel like Oprah. That's a tweetable moment. The whole talk has been, Dr. Roger. Thank you so much for joining us today. And really quickly, the Association for Global New Thought is at what website?
AGNT.org.
Beautiful and easy.
AGNT.org.
Great. AGNT.org. And
my website is simply rogerteel.com.
rogerteel.com, which we have on your speakers page as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. And for the rest of you who are continuing through the Global Gratitude Summit, we will see you in the next talk. Thanks for joining us.